Welcome to Living Well. Thank you so much for joining us for another session. Today's going to be really exciting. We're going to talk about what you need to know, particularly during this holiday season when there's so many temptations to eat so many unhealthy things. My name is Dr. Jennifer Sankey, and with me today is Emilyn Mark. We're going to share with you some valuable information that you may or may not know, but we're hoping that what you hear today will make a difference in how healthy and how you live. And we really ultimately want you to live well. Again, I'm going to share with you my screen. I want to share with you that this program is for educational purposes only. We're not going to assess. We're not going to diagnose. We are not going to treat or anything like that. If you have any questions, we ask that you refer to your personal provider. Yes, we will be referring to the Bible. Yes, we will refer to research and even maybe some of our own personal experiences, but we ask you take notes because we know that you may have questions. In the event you have questions, we ask that you put them in the chat box, or when we open the mic, you are welcome to join us at that time and ask your question. So in 1 Corinthians 10:31, we know it says, whether you eat, drink, or do all to the glory of God. And you've heard us say this text over and over and over again. And the reason today it has so much significance, because we're going to be talking about a topic that has to do with eating and drinking and what we do. And we want to do all to the glory of God. So 'tis the season that you need to know about the dangers of artificial sweeteners. Yes, many of the cookies, cakes, and drinks that we eat and drink sometimes have artificial sweeteners. And I'm going to share with you some of those dangers. You also need to know that there are some natural sweeteners that you can use in place of it. And then we want to tell you about ways to cook oil-free. Now, that may be a new concept, but Emma's going to share with us why that is so important. So let's talk a little bit about the dangers of artificial sweeteners. So artificial sweeteners contain harmful products which can interfere with living well. Let me say that again. Artificial sweeteners contain harmful products which can interfere with living well. And today we're talking about living well during the holiday seasons. So why are they so dangerous? Let's talk a little bit about some of the list. And some of these you may actually know about: Splenda, Sweet and Low, Equal. And here's a whole list of them. Over here: Avatane, Aspartame, Neotane, Saccharin, Luhangu, fruit extracts, high purity, actually Stevia, and then there's sucralose. Can't say all of those words. So sometimes when we can't pronounce the word, we should ask, is it good for us? And so we'll talk about why these artificial sweeteners that are on this list and may not be listed also, how they can affect our health and interfere with us living well. So let's talk about things that you should be aware of. Whenever you see the word diet, or if you see anything that says sugar-free, be aware that it may have artificial sweeteners. And the way you can find out is if you read the label. And I can't stress enough the importance of reading the label so that you will know what is going into your body. If it says diet or sugar-free, as I said, be aware. So you want to be aware of sweeteners because even though they say 0 calories, many of the sweeteners, research shows that many people gain weight when they use these actual artificial sweeteners. And we'll talk a little bit more why they gain weight. Many times diabetics will actually use these artificial sweeteners because, remember, they say that they are 0 calories, or they'll say sugar-free. And it's important that you understand that many of these sugar-free, calorie-free items have a lot of sugar in them. And then next, even though they promoted that these artificial sweeteners do not contribute to cavities, there's other harmful things that are attributed to using artificial sweeteners. So let's talk about it. Look at the ingredients in these artificial sweeteners. By the name artificial, we should be concerned about what we are eating. Anything that's artificial that is not natural, we should be questioning what are the ingredients. Many of the ingredients are synthetic, they're processed, or they're refined products. So what that means is they're not natural, they're not plant-based many times, and even if they are, they've added something into it that makes it unhealthy for the body. And even the FDA, they use this little fancy word, non-nutritive. Well, that means there's no nutritional value in it. None, zero whatsoever. So be mindful of that, that you don't have your body working hard to try to digest or to intake something that has no nutritional value. So you maybe can and cannot see this list, but what I want to tell you is on this list, to the far left are the names of different sweeteners, some of those that I actually mentioned earlier. And then it talks about what the FDA has approved these items for. And many times they will approve these items for flavoring, sweetening foods. Many times they don't approve them for use in meat or poultry, but many times they're only approved to flavor, is a flavor enhancer for foods. So listen to that. This is the FDA. This is from their website. It's a flavor enhancer, not necessarily nutritious for the body. And then the third column from the left actually shows the different names that they will market these artificial sweeteners for. So you really need to be able to be familiar with these names. So when you're reading the label on the back of drinks or cookies or cakes or anything, even just foods that are processed, which we really encourage you to stay away from, that you know whether or not it has any of these artificial sweeteners in them. Then fourth column over shows the comparison of the sucrose compared to this particular artificial sweetener. So I'm going to use an example. The very first one up there, it actually is 200 times sweeter than regular sugar. The second one, Avitane, is 20,000 times sweeter than regular table sugar. 20,000 times sweeter. If you go down to the next one, aspartame is 200 times sweeter. And you can read all the way down how you see that none of these are 0 times sweeter. All of them are well over 100, well over 200 times sweeter than regular table sugar. And so what this tells us is what we're taking into the body, as we're saying, 0 calories, sugar-free diet, that it actually is more harmful to the body. So when we want to live well, which we encourage and we promote on this program, that we live well, we want to understand better what's in these artificial sweeteners that they're promoting as sugar-free. So research shows, there's research. When I was researching this, I came across so many different things, so many scientists, and this is scientists who are looking at the artificial sweeteners and the new research that uncovers the dangers of artificial sweeteners potentially leading to serious health issues. This is a news bulletin for all of us, because the scientists are saying it could potentially lead to serious health issues that I will share with you. So there are going to be these reasons that I'm going to share with you. Number one, when we use artificial sweeteners, it does affect the brain. It impairs the sensitivity to the interoceptive signals. What it means is it affects the signals in the brain, and it causes you to believe, actually, it dysregulates your appetite, and you tend to eat more food. So when you have these artificial sweeteners, you eat more of it, because in your mind, you have told the brain there's no calories, 0 calories diet, and now the content, the ingredients sends a signal to the brain to have you actually eat more food. That's why weight gain occurs as a result of these artificial sugars. It also retrains the taste buds. So, you know, if you eat a cookie or a cake, you know, you say, oh, I just keep eating these. Well, the reason is because the ingredients in the artificial sweeteners have retrained not only your brain, but now your taste buds, that now you eat more, you gain weight. In fact, you're more at risk of even becoming diabetic, because what happens is you begin to crave these super sweet items that you're eating that are 0 calories, that are sugar-free, and that are considered diet. And then leads to diabetes, because it does impair, and the research shows that it impairs your glucose tolerance. It impairs it and it raises your blood sugar, and it increases the risk for diabetes. Remember, the pancreas regulates our insulin, right? And so when we're eating all of these foods and they are actually signaling to the pancreas, to release insulin, it's too much in the body that the insulin is unable to keep up. There's an imbalance. That's probably the best way I can say it. There's an imbalance that the pancreas cannot keep up with these foreign, I'm going to just say foreign artificial sweeteners that are in the body. I mentioned that it encourages overeating, if there's an increase of certain cancers, and it does affect the gut health. So people are having a lot of gut issues. We've heard about it. People have acid reflux. They have all type of problems with their stomachs. They're having gastrostomy. They're looking to see what's going on with their stomach. Well, some of it could be related in the event you're using a lot of artificial sweeteners. It could be the result of that. I've highlighted what this research shows, because previously healthy gut, this is what artificial sweeteners cause, previously healthy gut bacteria becomes diseased and invade the gut wall. Previously healthy gut bacteria becomes diseased and invade the gut wall. So if you begin to eat this, if your bacteria in your gut was normally healthy, now it is no longer healthy. Why? Because now these artificial sweeteners with all their ingredients have now caused the gut to respond to, I'm going to use this word, foreign object again, in the body. So it's really, 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 really important that when we begin to have stomach problems or have any type of health problems, that we begin to try to trace back to the root cause. Because oftentimes we try to mask it and do, we'll take I'm not going to say the probiotics is bad, and it isn't, but we may take a Protonics or some type of pill to try to get our gut health back in check. But it could be simply the foods that we're taking into the body. And so I wanted to share with you this today, because during the holiday season, we want you to stay well. We want you to live well. And it's very important that we read the label. And as we begin to make those cakes and cookies and all those things that are really, holiday season-ish on our table, that we know what's in it, to make sure that it's not causing anything with our brain or anything with our stomach, or causing us to have diabetes or setting us up for any type of cancers. Really important that we're mindful that 'tis the season for us to live well. And so my question to you is, what will you do with the information that you learned about artificial sweeteners? We also talk about this on the show all the time. It's not enough to be a hearer, but we also want you to be a doer of the word. And so the question is, what will you do with the information? Maybe you don't even use artificial sweeteners, and that's great. That's really good news. But if you do, then what will you do? And if you don't, is this information that someone that you know could benefit from, that you can share with them about those diet, 0 calories, sugar-free items, and exactly what it does to the brain, to the body, and to the gut? Think about it. What will you do with the information that you learned about artificial sweeteners? Emilyn, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you have some good information to talk about natural sweeteners, and I also know that you're going to talk about oil-free cooking.
Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your presentation. Now, I'm just going to continue talking about sugar. Now, sugar is the basic ingredients used in 99% of processed food. This former food industry executive, Bruce Bradley, said, sugar drives the taste and appeal of the food. So what the sugar industries do, they add artificial sugars, and they add even our table sugar, sucrose, to food to make it taste. They go to this point bliss. They actually hire chemists to make chemicals to add to our food so that we can continue to come back and continue to buy the same deadly, unhealthy foods, cookies, even some canned foods, and any processed food, baked goods, anything like that does contain these sugars that are not healthy for us. Dr. Robert Luskin, a pediatric endocrinologist, said that sugar is bad, but we have heard this over and over. that too much sugar is not good. Sugar has empty calories. It makes you gain weight. It increases your blood sugar. All of that is true. But I'm here to tell you, sugar is more than that. It's a poison. I know many of you will not ingest poison because you know it's going to hurt you, it's going to harm you. So why are we eating so much sugar and putting this poison in our bodies? So why do I say that sugar is a poison? It is because that when we consume too much of these sugars, it is harmful to our bodies. There are two ingredients in sugars, glucose and fructose. Now, when we ingest sugar, the glucose and fructose are separated in the gut. The glucose goes straight into our circulation and nourish our bodies and feed our muscles so that we can respond and be active. Our brain, but with the fructose, our brain, it affects our liver. When we ingest fructose, it goes directly to the liver. And this is where the problem starts. When we digest too much fructose, the liver turns it into liver fat. I see a lot of people who they were not alcoholics, but they end up with cirrhosis of the liver, end up with what we call fatty liver, and cause the liver to be unhealthy. We need our liver because we detoxify. Everything goes through our liver to detoxify and to cleanse the body. And if we don't have a healthy liver, we're going to be in problems. So how does too much sugar affect the brain? Too much sugar, too much sugar shuts down the brain pathway, and it tells you that you're full, that you are not full. I'm sorry. It shuts down the brain pathway that tells you when you're full. So therefore, it does not register when you eat too much sugar. Your brain does not register that you have eaten, and then you continue eating, as Dr. Sankey said. Also, it can cause Alzheimer's, diabetes of the brain, we call it. Too much sugar, from what studies have shown, has linked to Alzheimer's, including insulin resistance, which occur in every organ of the body. For example, it affects the ovaries. We have polycystic ovaries. It affects the muscles, and we have diabetes. It affects the brain. We have Alzheimer's, and it affects the liver, and it causes liver disease. So what can we do? What can we do? What sugars? I am not saying that we cannot eat sugar. I'm not saying that we cannot eat our cookies and cakes and what have you, but there are alternatives. So I have a video I want to share with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to play this video talking about sugars that we can eat that are healthier versions. So here we go.
Hey guys, Dr. Axe here, doctor of functional medicine and founder of draxe.com. Today I'm here to share with you my top 5 natural sweeteners and sugar substitutes. And so this is a big deal today. So many people are over consuming high fructose corn syrup, processed sugar, and just carbs in general. And what I'm going to go over here are my top 5 natural sweeteners that many of them, not all of them, many of them still have sugar, but it's much easier for your body to digest and process, and it's going to bring the most health benefits to your body. So whether you're looking for sugar substitutes for baking or cooking, or let's say just something to add in your morning tea or smoothie, these are going to be the best 5 natural sweeteners you can use. And to start with, I'm going to go over my number 1 natural sweetener, and that's pure raw honey. Now, when you're buying honey, you want it to say raw. You want it to ideally even be from a local source. And so for me, this is an area here in the area of Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm located. And so again, this is a form of honey that I love. And let me say this about honey. One of the reasons it's so beneficial is that honey is not just a sugar. It's actually a food. honey doesn't just contain sugar, it also contains amino acids. It contains specific types of electrolytes and antioxidants and antimicrobial compounds that can really support your body and the health of your body. So pure raw honey, now again, you want to use it sparingly, as the proverbs say. You don't want to go overboard with using these sweeteners, but 1 tablespoon, 1 to 2 times daily is a good healthy amount that most people can do well with. So again, pure raw honey. A few other benefits here of honey is it helps reduce allergy symptoms. And the reason it does that is local pollen, and this is if you buy local honey, it actually really helps with allergies because it helps your body adapt to local pollen. It's kind of natural immunizations over time, the truth of how we were supposed to adapt to our surroundings. You have in bee pollen, which is found in pure raw honey. By the way, there was a study at Texas A&M University. They found that about 80% of honey on supermarket shelves don't contain any pollen whatsoever. That's why you've really got to buy the raw stuff if you want the real deal. Also, raw honey contains antimicrobial properties. So I don't just eat honey. I actually use honey. When I get a cut or wound, I put it in the area. If you have acne or skin issues, you can put it right on the area. So it can actually even be used as a form of natural medicine. And some of my favorite ways to use honey is I use it in morning with my sprouted soaked oatmeal sometimes. I'll put it in a breakfast smoothie. I'll use it when I'm making gluten-free pancakes. I'll use it with some green tea, just a little bit of honey in there to sweeten it up. But again, honey, probably my most used sweetener that I use here on a regular basis. The number 2 sweetener you should really consider using on a regular basis, and this is especially good if you have blood sugar issues, if you're overweight, or if you have something like diabetes, and that's stevia. And stevia is a no-calorie, all-natural sweetener that comes from a leaf of actually a flowering plant. And stevia, and there are many different types of stevia. Ideally, you get full green leaf stevia. Another form of stevia that's suitable is doing stevia that is basically just ground and part of it is extracted. Now, there are other brands out there today that I am not a fan of, like Truvia, because it's so highly processed. And they'll also add in other chemicals, and they come from GMO corn or add in GMO corn derivatives. And we all know we don't want GMOs in our diet. But Sweet Leaf, this is one of my favorite brands I use. This is stevia. In fact, they even have stevia flavors. This is you can get chocolate stevia, vanilla stevia, chocolate raspberry stevia, pumpkin spice stevia. So there's a lot of different brands. But the great thing about stevia is there's no sugar involved. And so if you do have diabetes or blood sugar issues or are looking to lose weight fast, this is a great no carbohydrate solution. And again, just like using honey sparingly, you shouldn't be dumping this in your foods and going overboard. But just a little bit goes a long way. Just a few drops in your morning tea. I love this with my herbal teas in the morning. I add a little bit sometimes to something like a morning smoothie, a little bit to different baking goods, or if I'm making homemade pudding, I'll put this in there with some chia seeds and coconut milk and coconut oil. But again, a little bit of stevia is great, especially if you've got blood sugar issues or weight loss issues. Try some stevia, my second favorite natural sweetener. My number 3 natural sweetener are dates. Now, dates, we could throw other fruits here into the category, things like raisins, apricots, other dried fruit, pineapple juices. But the great thing about dates are they're also very high in fiber and potassium, as well as other vitamin minerals. In fact, of all the sweeteners I'm going to go over, dates have the highest nutrient value. Now, in terms of phytochemicals that heal the body, honey is the highest. But in terms of actually vitamins and minerals, and fiber content, dates are the highest, and that fiber actually slows down sugar absorption. So remember, if we're comparing this to white sugar or high fructose corn syrup, dates are not sugar. Dates are a food that contains sugar, and this food also has fiber and antioxidants and minerals like potassium that helps you slowly absorb sugar and really helps regulate sugar within your body. And so dates are very sweet, and I actually love making homemade pecan pie. And so when we do different baking at home and do some of our ingredients like you'll find in my Real Food Diet cookbook, you're going to see we use dates all the time. You mix some dates with some nut butter and you can make food bars at home. You can make protein bars. You can make pies. This is amazing to add with some pecans and cashews and make a homemade pie crust. And so in baking especially, I make a smoothie at home with some cashew butter and peaches. and you throw some dates in there. Dates are great actually just to throw in smoothies. And it's really great if you're into raw food and vegan foods. Dates are probably the #1 natural sweetener used. And again, potassium is great for flushing out toxins. It's great for balancing electrolytes in the body. So this is great for athletes. And again, you don't want to go overboard, but again, dates, a fantastic sweetener. My #3 favorite sweetener. #4 on my list is coconut sugar. You can see here we have organic coconut palm sugar. We actually have a vanilla flavor. It's unrefined, it's vegan, it's non-GMO. And especially when you're baking, if you're looking for an equal comparison, let's say you're baking a cake and you want a recipe that has the equal amounts of 1 cup of sugar to 1 cup of an alternative natural sweetener, well, here you go. Coconut sugar or coconut palm sugar here is the ideal replacement. We know coconut juice especially, which is where a lot of this comes from, that coconut juice is full of potassium, it's full of electrolytes and nutrients. So again, if you're looking for an equal comparison that's non-toxic, non-GMO, that your body's going to be able to digest better, organic coconut palm sugar is better. And all of these sweeteners, by the way, they're lower on the glycemic index, where regular table sugar scores a 100. Many of these sweeteners score closer to a 50, so half the glycemic index, so it's going to affect your body in a lesser amount to where it's not going to cause your energy levels to drop or spike your insulin levels, increasing your risk of diabetes, like a lot of the other sugars out there today. So this is a great replacement, equal replacement to actual table sugar, especially in baking cookies and pies and things like that. And last, but not necessarily least, in terms of a natural sweetener, is 100% pure organic maple syrup. And when you buy it, look for grade B or even a lower grade, even grade C. But you want a grade B maple syrup. This is USDA organic. And maple syrup, we know, is a fantastic sweetener. It's good, especially over things like pancakes and waffles. It's good in certain recipes where you want more of that sort of that earthy flavor along with it. And so again, 100% organic pure maple syrup, another good sweetener to add in. But what I would do is get rid of the sugar. By the way, if you just are using regular sugar in your baking and cooking, the majority of that sugar is genetically modified. It comes from genetically modified beets and GMO corn. And so if you just see sugar on a food label that you're buying, or you're using regular sugar in baking, we know that that is highly toxic to the body. And why not? It is so easy to replace those fake sugars with real sugar, these natural sugar substitutes and natural sweeteners to use instead. So remember these 5 natural sweeteners: raw honey, stevia, dates, coconut sugar, and pure organic maple syrup. Use those 5 natural sugar substitutes and you're going to be a lot healthier for it while satisfying your sweet tooth.
Okay, so we just heard 5 different sugars that we can substitute for regular table sugar. Let us take heed to these warnings. The sugar that we consume, although we're talking about healthy sugars that we can consume, alternative or healthy alternative sugars, let us be mindful. We have to be moderate in all things. We cannot go overboard with anything. We have to have a balance. So although it's natural, in its natural form, we still have to use it in moderation. I know it's Christmas season is coming up, and I know a lot of you will be baking cakes and pies and all of that. Take some of these examples, some of these alternatives, and add it to your recipe. I know I use dates. I made a brownie one time and I used dates. I took the dates and I soaked it. Whenever you're going to use like fruits for substitute for sugar, you need to soak it in some water, warm water or hot water. I soaked it and then I took it. It needs to be soft so you can blend it, and I blended it up and it made a paste. It needs to be like the consistency of peanut butter. And I added that to my brownie. And I tell you, it was as sweet as ever. It tasted good, and you would not believe that there wasn't sugar added to that. I know black cake is a big thing. Everybody wants black cake for Christmas, for those of you who are in the islands. So how can we substitute this simple table sugar for a healthier version. I am not saying you cannot make a black cake, but just using all those prunes and all those currants and raisins that you use in your black cake, if you take that, soak it, and blend it up into a paste so you can make a sugar, so it can be like substitute for your sugar. And if you can get some healthy like coconut palm sugar, you can also add that to your black cake, and it will be as sweet as ever, and you will not miss that simple white or even brown sugar that we think is good. Because what is brown sugar? Brown sugar is white sugar that they take and they add molasses back into it. They add the molasses to it so you can make it brown. That's why you see different colors of this brown sugar. It all depends on the amount of molasses they add to the sugar, gives it the dark color. So it is not healthy. It is all processed. And we are trying to stay away from things that are processed. So I hope this is helpful, giving you some tips on things that you can use to substitute for sugar. So I also want to touch on oils. I know my sister, she went to this program in Tennessee, White Creek, I'm sorry, where she learned so much about eating healthy. And one of the things she came back, telling us that we need to not to use oils. Even the healthier versions of oils that we have heard about so much. Oil is not good. It's bad for the body. And here's some things that what happen when you eat oil. It impacts the blood vessels, causing heart disease. Also, it can thin the blood too much and cause bleeding. It affects the lungs, suppresses certain immune system function, and it can cause cancer. So we have to avoid all form of oils. It is saturated and contain high amount of calories. It is purely fat. If you read the label on any oil, even olive oil, any oil, all what it has is fat. There's no other ingredient. It has no nutritional value. Oil is processed, and in the process of processing oil, it is highly refined, and all the protein and all the nutrients is removed from the oil, especially those oils that are heated. If you're going to use oil, if you still want to use oil, it's best to use cold pressed oil. That way the oil is not heated. It is extracted without heat, and it's contained more of its natural form. Olive oil, I guess it will be the best if you're going to still use oil. I know some people maybe cannot stay away from it, but if by any cost, if you can, please stay away from eating oils. I have a video. You might say, how can I stir fry my vegetables without using oil? And it can be done. It's not impossible. It can be done. So here is a video showing you how you can saute your vegetables or saute anything without using oil. Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey, it's Lindsay from Happy Herbivore, and today I'm going to show you how to cook without oil. It's a question I'm always getting when I tell people that I don't ever use oil. They're like, well, then how do you cook? It's very easy. Instead of using vegetable oil, big secret, I use vegetable broth. Seriously, it's just that easy. And cooking with broth is amazing. It adds so much more flavor. I find it makes onions sweeter. It's wonderful, and it's so much better for you not to use the oil. So I start by lighting my pot with just a little, very thin layer of broth, and the same would be true for water. So we're just going to cook up some onions today. So as you can see, it's boiling and everything's cooking really well. And you just basically continue to cook until your onions or garlic or whatever it is you're cooking cooks to the desired tenderness or cooked state that you like. And if you run out of liquid, just add a little bit more, a splash at a time. And now you'll see how beautiful my onions are really coming along. And they smell so great. Oh, the fragrance is awesome. beautifully cooked onions. See, no oil is necessary. For more recipes and ideas, visit happyherbivore.com.
So you see, it's possible. You can saute without oil. You can even roast and bake without oils. I guess some suggestions that I got here, how to use oil for stir frying. You can use 1 to 2 tablespoons of water. In this case, this young lady, she used vegetable vegetable broth, and just gradually saute. And if you need to add, you can always add some more of the water or vegetable broth. It's best to use a non-stick pan, and be careful. Non-stick pans, that the one that has that cellophane, I think, in it, we need to stay away from those. Parchment paper, if you want to roast your vegetables, for example, you can use parchment paper or silicone baking mat to roast your vegetables. Spread it out, and it's going to roast just perfectly. You can also use some oil substitutes for baking. You can use unsweetened applesauce, mashed bananas, pureed avocados, ground flakes, ground chia, pureed pumpkins or squash to add to the vegetable or whatever you want to bake, and it will bake, and you're going to have a healthier version of of your vegetable instead of all that oil that is not healthy for you. Okay, at this time, I'm going to take questions. Anyone? I see we have a couple of questions in our chat. Let me look at our chat. Okay, someone said that they purchased an air fryer and wondered if it's safe to use for healthy cooking. With the air fryer, I'm not sure, how you use it, but once you're not adding oil and all of that to it to bake, it could be a healthier version. Any questions? You can open your mic and ask questions at this time.
I have a comment.
Okay, sure.
Going back to the sweeteners, I was in a class the other day, and the lady said the stevia, liquid stevia, is the healthy version of the stevia, and it's safe to use. You just have to obey the directions on the bottle. But liquid stevia is good. It's not highly processed like the others. And also agave inulin powder. Agave inulin is a natural product. It has the polysaccharides and the fructans. And we eat a lot of stuff with inulin, like chicory, the Jerusalem artichokes, onion, garlic, to name a few. They have inulin in them, those things. So if we want to use the sweeteners, it's not artificial, it's a natural sweetener. The agave inulin powder, you must remember those words, agave inulin powder and the stevia liquid.
Okay.
They're not highly processed. They are natural. The agave inulin powder it's a high fiber food, low glycemic. But if you use it in excess, you'll have some bad side effects like diarrhea, constipation, gas, etc., as with anything else. And it's also a prebiotic. It decreases fat cells also. decreases your appetite. So it's also in that thing they call tequila that people drink. If you ferment it, if you ferment the inulin, it's going to turn into alcohol. And that's what they use for tequila. So we can research those two names for ourselves and see if that's something we want to choose. Don't take my word for it. Just write them down and research them and decide for yourself.
Thank you,
Thank
Josephine.
you. Mhm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Josephine. That is very informative, because agave on by itself, I will discourage anyone from using because of the concentration of fructose and glucose, and it is highly processed. So
Yes.
remember, Josephine said agave insulin powder. So it's a
Inulin.
different, oh, inulin, I'm sorry. Thanks for
Agave
correcting me.
inulin powder.
Inulin powder. It's different from that agave liquid. So be
Yes.
warned, be careful. Agave liquid, that agave you see sometime in health food store, it is not healthy. Please
No.
stay away from that, because it is a high glycemic product and it is processed. So it's best to use the agave inulin. And inulin is good. The reason why inulin is good is because it promotes healthy gut bacteria.
Yes, prebiotic.
It's a probiotic. So therefore, if we use that inulin agave powder, I never heard of that, so I'm going to look for that
Where's
now.
the power cord on the Magic Chef 10.1 refrigerator,
Oh,
please?
we can, I'm sorry about that. What happened?
How old is your Magic Chef fridge? Brand new.
Let's remember, just to recap, let's remember, although we are talking about eating healthy alternative sugars, getting these healthy alternative sugars to replace the refined table sugar, let us be mindful that we must do everything in moderation. We cannot overdo. So we do not want to eat a whole bunch of cookies and cakes and stuff during the Christmas season. We need to be mindful and to be temperate in what we are doing. It's best to eat raw honey, remember, raw, because the ones that, if it's not raw, pasteurized and all of that, some of the nutrients are not, in the honey. So raw honey. And another warning I want to say about honey, be careful. Honey, we should not give infants honey. Anyone less than 12, I think 12 months old, should not use honey, because it can cause gut problem, diarrhea, constipation, all of that, and can really cause a health risk for the infant. So please do not give your infants honey. Remember, stevia, there are different types of stevia out there. So some of those stevia that they add chemicals to, look at your stevia, read the label. It should be just pure stevia leaf. If there's anything else added to your stevia, it is not pure. It is not the best stevia. Stevia also has a metallic kind of taste to it. So you have to be very careful how much you use, because if you use too much, it can be, can give the substance or the tea or whatever you're drinking a bad taste. So just be careful. And it's very sweet. It is very sweet. You just need a small amount of stevia and it will go a long way. Dates, the best form of sugar. It has fiber. Fiber helps decrease or release of sugar into the cells, into our bodies. So therefore, it decreases the need for too much insulin flush rushing into our system and causing that peak and then that drop in our blood sugar and make us feel sluggish. So let's take these things that we just heard about and put it in our diet so that we can have a healthier, live a healthier lifestyle.
Thank you, Emilyn. That was amazing. I appreciate you going through that because honestly, we want people to enjoy the holiday seasons with good food and good fellowship. And we want to give them some options of how they can live healthier. And so our goal is that you will live well. Last week, we talked about having a schedule. I'm hoping you've started that schedule. We don't want to wait to the first of the year to make that decision. And I'm hoping that what you've heard today will make a difference. And when you make those food choices about what you're going to eat during the holiday. Remember, 'tis the season to live well, and that's actually starting now and not waiting to the first of the year. I don't see any other questions in the chat box.
Yeah, I want to challenge someone to come up with a recipe for that black cake. I know I love my black cake, but I don't eat it because of some of the ingredients that's in it. So some of these ingredients or substitute that we have talked about for to sweeten our foods, and maybe someone can come up with, they can be skillful enough to come up with a recipe to use these alternatives so that it can make an excellent black cake that tastes just as good and everyone will enjoy for the Christmas season.
Wonderful. Emily, you know what? I want to give you that.
That's not hard to do,
Pardon me?
That's not hard to do at all.
Okay, so Alicia, will you take that challenge?
Because yes, I can do it.
Good.
Huh? Good.
My mother used to make, well, before my father died, my father was a diabetic and he did like cake, right? I could remember as children growing up on Friday, we used to bake we always had to have something sweet, with the Sabbath lunch, the bread and whatever, right? So after he couldn't eat the sugar no more, my mother used to make no sugar buns, and she would make cake without the sugar, and it used to taste like if it had sugar in it.
Okay, so
All
very
right.
good.
So what she used to do was she would like soak the fruits, or right, you would get the fruits and put it to in a little hot water to kind of plump it up a little bit, and then grind it up and just mix it without no sugar whatsoever, and it used to taste good.
Excellent. That's the same thing
Good.
That's the same thing I was thinking, because when we make our black cake, we add all those fruits to it. I was just thinking if we can just soak some of those fruits in some hot water, blend it up, and I guess you're gonna have to decrease some of your liquid now that you add into the cake, that you can come up with a good alternative for a healthy black cake where you don't have all that sugar in it. Very good.
I stopped baking over a long period of time now because my children and them grown and gone the way. So it don't really interest me to bake cake. The season in, yes, I don't know. Sometimes you see people with their cake and you just want a little taste. But I feel I go try something for this holiday without the sugar and see how it will turn out.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We can't wait to hear all about Alicia. So you have to tell us the recipe so that we can try it as well. That would be great.
Yeah, well, I had to do my test. I had to do my little research and my test, and then work on it, and then I will.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We're going to close out with prayer. We're going to ask for prayer requests in just a few moments. But I wanted to say to Emilyn, thank you so much for your research that you did today, for sharing those videos about natural sugars that we can use and how we can cook without using oil. So many of these things that we're sharing with you, it's going to be a process, and it may be progressive, that you will move away from those things that are unhealthy to a more healthy lifestyle. And that's what all this is all about. We're on a journey for whole health, mind, body, and soul, because we want to prepare for heaven. When our minds are clear, we can hear the Holy Spirit speaking much more clearly to us, much better discernment, obedience to God's law. That's what it's all about. And so hopefully you've heard one thing, at least two things, or even three things that you've heard today that you will apply to your life. Thank you again for joining Living Well. I'm going to stop the recording just so that we can take our prayer requests.